Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Today I have my friend Clay with us. So Clay, thank you so much for joining us today, dude. I really appreciate you and appreciate your time. Why don't you just share with us, a bit about you and maybe, give us some of your background and please share something fun that most people wouldn't know about you to start us off.
Well, you and I were talking about this before the show, but the best thing that's happened to me is new. I have a 10-week-old baby boy. And I love that dude to death, right? All those fathers out there, I am not ousting those mothers, but all those fathers out there know that first time around when you see that little guy or girl and you're like, wow, this is just such a gift, right? And so I've had that privilege. I had that privilege in April. And now that's the newest thing in my life. And it's such a massive change. It's a beautiful change. And so being a father and an entrepreneur is this really unique friction, right? Because, we have the ambitions a lot of times of our previous selves, right? We carry the ambitions. I think that, a lot of people told me going into being a father that your life is going to change. And I felt that it was going to be this like cataclysmic, like I'm going to walk in one door and I'm going to walk out the other door and I'm going to be a completely different person. Right? But you carry the stories, your perspectives, your experiences, and your ambitions with you as you have a kid. You just have another person that you're caring for. And so it's been this really interesting friction because I have this ambition and launching and scaling my business, but now there's someone else that's a part of the decision making, right? The time prioritization. And it's really this interesting feeling. And so I would say that as a new dad, it's hard to describe like how I approach these problems because a lot of times, you hear the cliche of like, just spend more time. And it's like, yeah, but this guy's like 3 months old and he stares up at me and he doesn't make eye contact. Right. Right. I mean, so that's a new thing that's been this new and exciting thing, but something that I haven't felt uniquely equipped to handle because there's no manual for it, right?
Absolutely. I love that. And I agree, with the advice that you got, like spend time with your kids it'll always, like we always have on any situation that we're walking into our plan, right? And so as a parent and as I grow older, I've learned that just being more flexible with however the plan goes. Sometimes it's just much better just to go with the flow and like unplug. It's hard though. I think it's really hard for entrepreneurs because we're pushing, we're driving, we're pushing, and we got to hit these plans and all that. But the more we can go with the flow, I think everybody wins there, so.
Completely. And one of the things too that I've noticed is that it's required me to be more present. So what that means is that's brought me into my business. Now my business is what we do is we find and target rural recreational land. We find the highest value of rural recreational land and we flip it and we make a profit by doing that. It's an incredibly undiscovered niche in real estate investing. And I love it, right? But I'm a business owner. So I have employees. I have a business that has 8 people that are a part of my organization. And so it's caused me to think more about how to be present with the people that are part of my organization, how to focus on the prioritizing the highest value tasks in my business. And so it's really caused me to say, what are the things that I'm uniquely equipped to do in my business? And what are the things that really move the needle in my business, right? Because if you're a wholesale house flipper or you're in my business, which is a trading, dealing business, you're doing a lot of dealing, you're doing massive marketing, you're doing a lot of different types of marketing to get leads. And sometimes you get caught up in, I just got to do more. I have to do more. And in reality, sometimes in order to scale, you have to do it better, You have to be more present. You have to do it cleaner. And so I don't know if it's like directly correlated to this little dude entering my world, but it's been recently that I've started to really think about that, doing the marketing better, targeting more precisely, focusing on the biggest levers that I can pull in my business in order for me to be successful, in order to scale into multiple seven figures, into eight. How do I have to change? How do I change? And a lot of times change starts with being present in the moment and understanding, hey, I'm present. My feet are on the ground. I'm feeling everything that I need to feel. I'm present with my team members. I'm present with the work that I'm doing currently. And I'm present in the podcast right now with Doug.
I love that. Yeah, it's sort of speaking to me like what I'm hearing in my mind is like proceed with care, right? Proceed with caution, proceed with care. Like one of the things that really expanded for me once I started having children was like more love in my life, right? And so that love and care can now be applied everywhere, right? Which is really important. And so I think this is actually like a great place to ask this question, which is, how would you say it? Because I'm sure it's changed for you recently. How did you discover success for yourself, and then how do you define success for yourself in your family?
Okay. So success for me is something that actually I've recently, when I say recently, like this week. So this is the answer that I'm giving you right now has not been given on any other conversations, no other podcasts.
Hot off
It's
the press.
hot off the press, man. Hot off the press. So it is directly from a guy by the name of Garrett Gunderson. Okay. Garrett Gunderson is a personal financial speaker, entrepreneur, really, really smart guy, very thoughtful guy. Talks a lot about personal finance for entrepreneurs, specifically for entrepreneurs. And he talks about different types of mindsets that you approach your work with. And in a lot of times entrepreneurs approach their work with this mindset of, I just need to take, and I need to take to scale, and I need to delay and defer my joy, my fun in the moment, because in 5 years I'm going to be rewarded. And there's this conflict that we feel as entrepreneurs, which is, dude, I, I love that he says that, but like, I need to make money today. And so I'm going to put my shoulders down like a bull, and I'm going to keep pressing through, and I'm going to just move through it. Right. And I'm going to work, then play. Right. And so he talks about this concept, which is win, then play, which is choose the path that you have, choose the path that you want to do, the entrepreneurial lane that you want to go in, the things that you like to do, whether it's sales or marketing, whether it's having podcasts like you, whether it's training people one-on-one, or maybe you're more of a data analyst or an operational person, and that's a part of your business. You choose your win. And then when you choose your win in the entrepreneurial world, I love sales, right? It feels like play. It feels like play. Yeah. So you choose what your win is, and then that feels like play. And you're able to bring more value to your conversations. You're able to bring more presence to your conversations. You're able to close more deals. You're able to make more money because you're choosing what your win is. And you're not having someone else externally choose what that is, whether it's society, whether it's your crazy ex-girlfriend that you're still thinking of her because she said this one thing about you're never going to be successful, or whomever, Mrs. Beans in third grade, whatever it is, right? And so that's something recently that, we're talking about success. So success to me is choosing win, then play, right? And then do the things that I love to do. And yeah. One last thing, like, it's not all happening yet. So like, there are plenty of things that it's the overhead, right? They like, in my business, I'm not an operational person, right? In order to scale a business, past the mark that I'm at, right? In order to scale it, you have to bring people in for the operations, because that's really not my bent, right? But I'm still not there yet. So I'm striving, but that's how I define success currently.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, going into starting a business, you're going to wear like a lot of different hats. And, so as you are doing this, as you're wearing these different hats, think about which one fits you the best, right? So, and then as you're hitting your markers, you're going to if you're like filling a role and you can, fill other roles, like other positions with employees, you're if you fill the role, personally that you enjoy the most, then that's a win, right? If I'm following tracking you properly.
You're tracking me perfectly properly, and you have so many investors, successful investors on the show, right? And for the longest time, I was a multifamily guy, right? I bought smaller multifamily properties. I bought them. I did the BRRRR process. I was buying these properties that were built 150 years ago, 120 years ago in a town in the Northeast, right, which is my core market. This is before I got into land investing. So I was buying these properties, and I was the guy that I'm doing the deals with the people. I'm closing these deals. We're buying a 3-unit this month, 6-unit this month, 8-unit this month. We're buying these things. We're turning them. We're flipping them. But real estate is not about buying the asset. Actually, real estate is really about managing the asset, property managing and asset managing. The performance of the asset, of course, is in the buy. You got to buy it right. It's got to be the right area, of course. Let's just say, of course, right? But the expert level, the 201, right, is the managing of the asset. And Doug, I'm not a manager. I'm not a numbers guy, not an operations guy. I'm just not. And so I was going out and buying all these properties, right? And this is how I got into land investing, because it wasn't producing enough income for me, even though I bought over 65 properties in a year, right? From nothing, right? Burning it from nothing. It doesn't matter, because when we got all these things, we started to get things breaking, and we had all this CapEx and expenses, and it wasn't producing the income that I thought it would. Okay. And so, but that's an example of me not being in my DNA as an entrepreneur, my entrepreneurial DNA. The hat that I was wearing at that point didn't fit the role that it needed to fit. And so then I found land investing, and I was like, oh, this is so much better for me, because I'm a sales and marketing guy. I love the art of the deal. I love closing these deals. I love being a dealer and a broker. And that's the person that really thrives in that business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so I think a word that comes up for me a lot is introspection. I think if you listen to the short audio by Earl Nightingale, "The Strangest Secret," he talks about most people are not actually thinking, right? And so we want to take some time and think, like ask ourselves our why. Why are we doing this? What do I really want to do? And when we know that, we're much better off, right? So I love that you are now in this niche that you love, and you get to focus on the stuff that you love, like the negotiating, sales, marketing. And so let's actually like explore this. So share with us a bit, please, if you will, a bit about, what you're up to now, the success that you've found in land investing, why you love it, and yeah, let's just kind of start there, please.
Well, I think it starts a couple of years ago when I got a call from my wife the day before Thanksgiving, and she was hysterically crying. And it was the middle of the day before Thanksgiving, and she said, "Hey," it wasn't like that composed though; it was very muffled. But hey, I got laid off. We don't have my November paycheck. We didn't make any money in November, and the company went under. And that next year, we had our wedding. We had a Airbnb that we bought. Again, not my entrepreneurial DNA. We had our lives. And I was faced with this incredible wall of doubt that I had to make this money quickly. And Doug, I couldn't go and get a job as a sales guy, because I needed to make real money quickly. Right? Like, you had the ramp up period for a salesperson. And my background's wholesaling and house flipping. So I've wholesaled. Before that, I started and scaled a wholesaling business for a mom and pop guy, the guy that I cut my teeth with in real estate. We did 75 deals in our first year. So I knew the business. I knew the marketing and sales business. That is real estate. The how to build a funnel. That's real estate, right? And so I found land. I was researching, and I said, this is this unknown, undiscovered blue ocean, right? You don't hear a lot of people talk about land. I mean, there's so many people talking about flipping houses, wholesaling, and I was like, I must be the smartest guy in the room. Turns out there are people that know about land, right? But um, I learned about land. I said, this is an awesome opportunity. And so I went all in, man. I took courses. I went all in. And that year was the hardest year of my life. I mean, I eventually, paid for my wedding. I eventually paid for my life. We eventually sold the Airbnb because it was such an anchor in our lives. But my life completely changed because of land investing. And it's because I went full in. I committed. I mean, anyone can do this with any other asset class. I mean, I think land is particularly special. And of course, I'm going to talk about it because I think that it is the most undiscovered, least competitive real estate asset class right now. Might not be in 5 years or 10 years, right? I think it's going to be discovered. I think there's a window of opportunity now. But you can make money in anything, multifamily like you do. You can make money in house flipping, mobile home flip. I mean, there's so many different ways to make money in real estate. But the reason why I like the land investing is because of all the components that I just talked about, right? And so I kind of lost myself in your specific question, why I like land investing or my success, but I kind of blabbered there a little bit. Maybe you could take us back to the main topic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you answered it perfectly. I just want to learn more about what you're up to, now, why you love land. And you also, shared with us a period of time that was incredibly difficult, challenging for you. And I really like to kind of dive deeper on those experiences in life because there's we can learn from them, right? So what would you say is one of the most valuable lessons that you learned by walking through that?
Okay. This might not be what you're thinking, but the person that you choose as your partner is the single most important decision in your life. Man, 90-hour weeks every week, 52 weeks, 90-hour weeks. I was literally soulless. And I'm still working really hard right now, right? Because all of these bad decisions that we made earlier in our career, like you're working on a hamster wheel. And if your partner faults you for that, if your partner says you're the provider and you're not providing for me, or it doesn't encourage you or doesn't support you when they say, hey, babe, I have to work 12 hours this weekend. I got to work 120 hours this week, 100 hours this week. And they don't say, I see it. I see what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. Now, that's not sustainable health wise. That's not sustainable mental health wise. That's not sustainable relationally. But she didn't hold it against me. She supported me. And so the greatest lesson is like, dude, when you have someone in your team, on your team that supports you on those moments of absolute dismal depression, anxiety, I don't know if I can get through this, and you don't have that person, you have a support person, man, it completely changes the game. So I would say, man, I'm happy to take the credit. I'm happy to say, hey, man, like my first year, I made over $600,000. Like I did that, right? Like great, right? Like it wasn't all me though. It wasn't all me. I got lucky on some deals. Of course, like anyone that says out there that like I found this awesome niche and it was super easy and no, man, it was hard. It was hard. It was easier than wholesaling, but it was hard. And I had the support and I had some lucky deals and that enabled me to be successful, wildly successful in my first year and able to pay for my life, scrimp by. But I did it, right? And so that's the biggest lesson. I mean, I have other ones if I can certainly embellish, but that was the biggest one that I felt was like, dude, that's that in any business, if you have a supportive spouse, you're gonna crush it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And as you're talking about the anxiety and am I going to make it, and depression, because I think that's part of it with I'm not a full-time entrepreneur yet, right? But it is a part of my life. It's a part of my story currently, and it has been for a while. But you have ups and downs, right? And so the downs for me have been so much better, even though they can be intense. But as my wife Carissa, she is there to support me and go, hey, like, look at what we have. We have our family. We're super blessed. Like, we really can't lose. You have to, stop beating yourself up and just keep moving forward. But it's just like redirecting me to going like, oh yeah, no, like everything's fine. I didn't, so like, I can agree with you more that, and on the flip side, and I tell my son this, my oldest son, right, which we were talking about a little bit before, he's 25. That significant other, your spouse, will make you make you super successful and empower you to be as successful as you're driven to become. On the flip side, if you get the wrong one, you might as well, your life's in the toilet. You may not be able to, you may not survive it, depending on how bad, because abuse is real and there are plenty of people engaged in it, and life is too short to spend time with anybody that is willing to do anything other than encourage you on towards your dreams, right? So,
Dude, the two biggest expenses in life are taxes and divorce, right?
uh,
Like that's true, right? I mean, I say it tongue in cheek, but it's true. And divorce is not just expensive financially, right? It's expensive psychologically. It ruins families. And if you're an entrepreneur, imagine this. It's all fun and games to talk about the newest business strategy that's going to set you up to succeed, right? But in the reality is, if you are battling like we are as entrepreneurs every day, gladiators in the arena, going full out, and we come home, whether you're actually physically coming home or you're in your house, whatever, doesn't matter. You come home to dinner, to conversations, and you're getting berated. You're a part of an unhealthy relationship, dude. How do you survive?
how do you survive, and how does your performance continue to improve or even stay stable? It's going to decline in most, for most people there. And so I agree, you cannot do it. And it's huge. I think that I don't think there's any more important lesson that you could pull, you or I, out of that scenario that you went through with launching this business. You know what I mean? So like so I mean, well said, dude. That's huge. And kudos to your wife and kudos to my wife, because let's face it, without them we couldn't do it. So, huge, huge resource, or that's like, not even the right word, right? So
Absolutely. I mean, without question, the greatest decision that I've ever made in my life.
yeah, ditto. Yeah, I love it, man. And I'm glad that, that you picked well, you picked wisely, right? So did I. So it's crazy, huge blessing when you do that. Let me ask you this, just shift the conversation a little bit. If you were to go back in time, knowing what you know now, to age 18,
Ooh.
would you do anything differently, or what differently would you do, to fast track success as you define it?
Wow. Well, 18, I would have gotten in land earlier, and man, I would be so freaking wealthy. I mean, it would just be insane how wealthy I would be if I was in land, when I was 18 compared to now. Honestly, it's just like a really, it is in real estate at this point, I think one of the greatest ways to accumulate quick wealth without having a lot of expertise at the beginning, right? Multifamily properties, there's a lot of expertise. Not only do you have to have the expertise of acquisition, you have to have the expertise of management, property and asset management, the expertise of capital raising. There's a lot of stuff that is required. Now, of course, you get a massive multifamily building, Doug, like you are looking for. You can make 500,000, you could make 3 million, you could make $5 million exiting as a GP. Easy, right? And you get all those fees, and there's a way to really build a lot of wealth quickly with that, and the cash flow, of course, with the multifamily. But land is this asset class that you can get into quickly as an 18-year-old man. Like, you're talking to people about land, right? You're not talking to a 150 unit apartment building owner, right? It's a really
It's
different
not incredibly
conversation,
hard
right?
you're right. Yeah.
And so I would say, dude, like, yeah, I would get in the land sooner, because you'd be able to be so much further ahead, and I would be in an incredible financial position right now if I got in the land that early.
That's awesome. And a quick question for the audience. if they are new to, land investing, flipping, wholesaling, banking, buy and hold, whatever, um, are there strategies, that they can get started, with no money of their own?
Oh man, I mean, I hate to say that. Like, of course, there are strategies to get started with no money, right? You partner with someone and you work for them and you learn the business and then build up enough money to go out and do it yourself, right? Of course, you can do that, but like every real estate investment requires money. Like, if you're going to cold call people, which is super cheap, right? You still got to pay for skip tracing. I mean,
Pay for
you
the
can
dial.
manually do it effectively. You can go to Yellow Pages. I mean, there's so many ways to do it, but like you need money to do land investing. So I don't. I mean, yeah, you could do it with little money, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd wait for you to have a little bit of money and then get into it because then you put yourself at an advantage. You don't want to be, especially when you start a business early on, you want to have quick wins, right? Quick wins equate to lasting and sustainable success, right?
Yeah.
It's just like when you go to the gym, right? Exactly, man. You go to the gym, you do those bicep curls, and you're like, dang, man, those my biceps look good, right? Or whatever it is. You get those quick wins, man, that feels so good. And that keeps you motivated long term. And we're biological creatures, so we have to know how human beings operate. None of us are immune to this. So I would say save up the money so that you can invest in yourself and invest in your business if you're starting a land flipping business instead of just going out there and do it with no money.
Yeah, and it's sort of to piggyback on something you mentioned a minute or two ago as well is find a partner that is maybe looking, or somebody that's looking to hire you, but you can find partners and mentors that are willing to show you the ropes. But I agree with you. You're going to want to have some money so you can spend on marketing, like mailers. From my experience, mailers work well. You have to spend money on that. If you're going to cold call people, I would never recommend. I've done a lot of cold calling. I would never recommend just dialing one at a time. It's gonna take forever, to get some deals done. And so, like, I recommend a power dialer. You're gonna have to skip trace leads or buy a list somewhere that costs money, but you can do money. You can do it without your own money and get scrappy. One of the best ways, I think, is like what you mentioned earlier, is finding somebody who's willing to hire you, right? So, and then if you do save some money up, if you're working towards this, I also recommend what you touched on earlier: spend some, invest in yourself. Spend some money on a coach, spend some money on some courses. And so I want to kind of like throw this question your way. Are you currently, coaching, mentees, and or do you have courses at this point in your business that you're offering?
So at this point, we're talking. I have not yet launched a course. In the future, there will be a course, but it's not officially launched yet. It will be launched by the end of the summer. And the course will be, I don't know when this is going to be released, but it's going to be A to Z how to build and scale a successful six-figure land flipping business in a year. I mean, that's the process. So, I mean, I would recommend my course, obviously, because I built it, right? But yes, I will have a course to start and scale a land flipping business.
I love that. Yeah, I'm excited to to see that when it comes out. Um, and so let me ask you this: at at this point, looking back on everything that you've accomplished, everything that you've been through, all the success that you've experienced, would you say that there is a key that has unlocked success for you, in the sense that, hey, it's enabled you to go from either a scarcity mindset or disbelief mindset into an abundance mindset, or like, hey, success mindset?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is, um, and this goes a little bit against win and play, but sometimes you got to be a little bit aggressive and violent in order to achieve your goals, especially when you're starting. The actions that you take define you more than the thoughts that you have. So you can doubt your ability to build a land business. Like people have reached out to me and said, Clay, how do I know that working with you or working in the Landman Accelerator would work? And I said, honestly, man, like if you're not committed or you don't have an action orientation, like there's an application for that reason. But if you're not committed, like you're not going to be successful, man. Like you can lead a horse to water and they don't drink, man. They don't drink. And so it's all about understanding that you take actions and the action define who you are. Who you are your actions. They're not your thoughts or your words. Like, sometimes maybe you say to your significant other, right? You're like, oh, I'll pick up my clothes. I'll pick them up. And the 15th time your wife says, you still haven't picked up your clothes, but you've told me 15 times that you've picked them up. That's a perfect example of this, right? Right? And all the guys in the audience are probably laughing like, that's totally me. But the actions that we are us, not the thoughts or not the words. And when we choose actions, when we choose to act, when we decide, that is when we become. Not when we think, not when we talk, when we do. And so the shift for me was getting in my head, the doubt, like when I started land business, I had doubts. Will this work for me? Is it going to work? Is it worth it? Am I going to make money with these mailers? And when I sent out my first 15,000 mailers and didn't get a single deal, I said the same thing. And I said, well, I will still act. I will still go. And I still went and I was successful. And I continue to build a scalable business because I don't think. And a lot of people like to watch, they like to passively engage, but they don't actively do. And that was the difference for me.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that was answered so well. I mean, that is really such sage and amazing advice, and to piggyback on that, it reminds me of, Tony Robbins talking about how to create confidence. Confidence is an action. You act it. You go and be confident. Whatever you're going to do, just go be confident. And I think we're looking at, a very, very similar concept for both cases here, because like when we sit and we think, and what can do is that can turn into concern and then worry and then analysis paralysis, where fear overtakes us. How do we get out of fear? Is like we jump in faith, right? Or we jump in faith with action. You start moving, because like I feel like any human being could sit there and watch depressing movies or get brainwashed into whatever, feeling like we're hopeless, right? And if we don't continue to go like, okay, I feel hopeless, but I'm going to go act. I'm going to go act. Like the actual action helps us to feel better, and gives us like results as well, and then we can step into confidence. I don't know, I'm kind of blabbering there, but like I does that make sense? I mean, it's awesome.
Dude, it makes so much sense. And it's fun to say this stuff, and we know it intuitively, right? We all know that the work needs to be worked on. The doing needs to be done. But we will say, oh, like, oh man, Doug, like, should I like reach out to this person? They rejected me. Should I reach out to them again? Like we think that we hear these things and we're like, oh, of course it makes sense. Like rejection is a part of sales, for example. And then we like don't reach out to the person who rejected us. And it's like, wait, so I'm not acting out the thing that I know that I should do. And so when we get thought in that analysis paralysis, like you talk about, analysis paralysis is not broken by thinking more about analysis paralysis or thinking more about what you're doing. Analysis paralysis is broken by doing, by acting, by making it happen, by taking the next step. And that's what we can do to be successful.
I love it. And it's necessary. It's what we have to do. And that's also brilliant. Like you're not going to think your way out of worry. You know what I mean? Like for me, I personally, I will pray, and that gets me out of worry. That's an action. I will go and take action in the face of fear or worry or concern. but in reaching out to people, but these are all actions. And so, as we are getting closer to wrapping this up, because I want to be mindful of your time, Clay, is there a book or two that have had like a profound, effect or influence on your life that you could recommend to us?
Okay, got a couple. What type of category are we talking here?
Any category you want. So life, just in general, success, or, even sort of philosophical.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I'll give you three. I'll give you a jam pack here today. Amazon's going to be thanking me later. So number one is 80/20 by Richard Koch. Richard Koch is a British author, very successful investor. People don't really know about him. He's incredibly successful. Ex Bain and Company guy, very, very smart. And most people know about the 80/20 principle, right? The Pareto rule, 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. But he's the guy that really popularized it. He did it in like the early 2010s before like Tim Ferriss picked it up, before like it went really viral. And so I like to read books that are from the source, right? And so that's like, for me, that was a big mindset shifter, right? The way that I viewed the world was, dude, like, what are the 20% of the things in my health? What are the 20% of my relationships? What are the 20% of the things in my business, right? Well, I'm launching this course. What are the 20% of the things that I need to focus on? The product, the whatever I need to focus on, right? And so that's very helpful. Number two, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor and probably the most powerful person. No, he was the most powerful person living when he was alive. Like, you have to understand in that era, it was absolutely insane how much territory this guy owned and how many people he controlled. In a per capita basis, he's so powerful. And his meditations are basically his thoughts. Like, this guy's a moral person. The most successful person of his era, Marcus Aurelius, it shows that he is a moral person just like us. He struggles with all the same stuff that we struggle on. And he is credited with being one of the founding fathers, effectively, of Stoicism, which is a philosophy. So I would recommend that as well. That's a very popular book. And then the last book I would recommend is, and I'm shouting out this guy again because I just think I really appreciate his take on financial advice. His name is Garrett Gunderson, and it's Killing Sacred Cows. Killing Sacred Cows is a book that debunks a lot of money myths that we are taught, we are fed by modern media, that we are fed by the establishment, i.e., a lot of financial advisors and the way that the financial advisor system works. And it really challenges the notions of, what is personal finance? What is personal finance specifically for an entrepreneur? Why are we applying the same mental models around how we should control our finances if we're entrepreneurs? We should do something differently if we're an entrepreneur versus someone that has W-2, because our best asset is ourselves and our businesses. And so investing in those things, he's really taught me to think better through that. So those were three. Those long-winded, but I think that those are always all good reads.
And to be honest with you, I haven't read any of those. So that's huge. Yeah, super selfish win for me right there. So I'm going to start and go backwards, I think. But the 80/20 and Meditations have been on my radar for a while. I think I've heard of the Killing Sacred Cows in the past, but that one sounds incredibly interesting to me. I'm going to start there and go backwards. So, yeah, great. So as we are, here at the final two questions, let me ask you this. Is there a particular type of deal that, you're looking for that our audience can send your way, or is there a particular way that our audience can support you most?
Well, I'm very active on social media. I talk about land investing on social media, land investing, live, personal finance, all those interesting things that most, white dudes in their late 20s like to talk about. Right. So, right. So, the thing is, like, what I'm looking for currently is people that are interested in, and aspiring entrepreneurs that are interested in getting involved in land investing. I believe at the core of my soul that our accelerator course is the top course on the market. And so if you're interested as an aspiring entrepreneur, you're interested in taking your literal life to the next level through land investing, finding financial freedom in a year or 2 or 3, then reach out to me on social media. I'm going to talk about it a lot, and that would be the best way for someone to connect with me.
And that's launching towards the end of the summer.
That's right.
Yeah. So this episode should drop in 2 weeks. So not this Monday, but the following Monday. Be pretty good timing. Actually, I might try to flip it and have it drop this Monday. I'll stay in touch with you on that. But last question: how can our audience connect with you?
Right. So social media, I'm Clay Hepler on social media. I'm a big Twitter guy, right? I am not a, Twitter mob. Like, I don't say disrespectful things on Twitter. I just post about value. Instagram, I'm on Instagram. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, all Clay Hepler. And I talk about land, life, optimization, fun stuff, things that I'm doing, traveling, etc. on there. And that's the best way to get in touch with me. And one thing I'd leave with your listeners with is, I have a land letter, which is a free newsletter that I talk about land investing, right? If you're not ready to jump and you're like, dude, what is land investing? This sounds really cool, but really not like interested in jumping into a course right now. And I totally respect that. I have a land letter I put out every single Friday morning, and it's just value packed of what I'm doing in my business, how I'm thinking about land investing, and a deal deep dive that I do every single week. And that would be a really helpful way for someone, a free way for someone to get involved and really start learning about the business before they take any sort of financial jump.
Yeah, no, that's great. And how can we sign up for that?
Well, I can send that over to you. You can put it in the show notes or something, or you can just jump on any of my social media, man, and I have it there. It's in my profiles, etc. It's pretty easy to sign up for.
I love it. Well, hey Clay, this is this has been an absolute pleasure for me. It's always a pleasure for me to hang out with you, and so I really do appreciate your time, and very grateful for your time. And so thank you for coming on the show with us. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap up another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. And I hope you all are having a wonderful day. Remember to make this life magnificent.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for having me on, brother.
You're very welcome, Clay. Thank you all.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.